Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Thanks for tuning in to Lawyer on Air. Today's guest is Mika Fukutomi, who has taken a leap of faith that I think many lawyers dream about but rarely act upon. She had her early career in big law and investment banking, but instead of following the expected path, Mika chose something very different. She unlearned fear and stepped into entrepreneurship, creating an app that tackles one of Japan's most urgent problems, the small and medium business succession crisis. Almost 2/3 of family-owned businesses in Japan do not have a successor lined up. Imagine the impact if these businesses quietly close their doors. Mika's app matches up investors with these SME businesses so their doors stay open. This story reminded me of the conversations I've had with lawyers who sit in their offices looking out the window, wondering if there is anything out there more for them. I remember having those thoughts myself. Think what it would look like then if we took the skills that we have and invested in something completely new, something that solves a real problem in society. Mika is living proof that that is possible. Listen in as she shares how her journey unfolded from big law to being a bridge builder between worlds. My hope is that this episode inspires you to take that first small step towards a dream you have been quietly carrying. Let's get into it. Hello, Mika, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. We start with a warm-up question. Imagine that we are meeting up in person, and I hope we can do that soon. Where are we, and what are you ordering as a drink from the menu?
Okay, so I am actually in Karuizawa. That's where I live. And there's so many beautiful cafes in Karuizawa. So I would invite you to a beautiful cafe in the woods. And I am ordering an iced orange latte.
What? Iced orange latte? I've never heard of it.
Yes.
What?
I just saw that on the menu
Oh.
at a coffee shop, and the drink looks absolutely delicious. It looks creamy with an orange slice, so that's what I would get.
Oh, how interesting. That sounds very nice.
hmm
Wow, I'd love to do that. Karuizawa. I feel it's in my future. I am actually going there
Ah,
soon. Let's see if we can catch up together. That would be amazing.
yes, that would be great.
Yes, thank
Mhm.
you. Well, let's get into the rest of the questions. And I know that you are not practicing as a lawyer now, right? But you started your career out at Clifford Chance and White and Case and qualified as a solicitor in England and Wales. So I'm really interested to know what drew you into the law in the first place and what were those first years like as a lawyer?
Sure. So I was living in Hong Kong at the time, and I had been working as a financial analyst at an investment bank. And I felt a bit burned out and wanted to go back to school and learn something that could be of value for the rest of my life. So I wasn't thinking so much about launching a new career, but I wanted to go back to school and really gain some skills that would be valuable for the rest of my life. So once I finished the program at Hong Kong University Law School, I started working for Clifford Chance. I did my trainee solicitorship and then joined Clifford Chance. And I realized that I could start adding value by going into capital markets because that's the world I was immersed in earlier. So, yeah, those were the first few years of my life in law. And I found it to be very valuable because I was learning a ton of things.
Right. And also, your previous career was not wasted. You actually found it was completely useful for your first years of practicing at Clifford Chance. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So, looking back, what did practicing law and working in those top tier international firms give you or teach you about yourself? Maybe it's your skills or your mindset, something there that still serves you today.
Yeah, I find that a lot of skills and mindset have stayed with me even after leaving law. So I think critical thinking is key. My law practice really strengthened the critical thinking, and it really got me into the habit of thinking through structures of transactions and work processes and things. So that's been very useful. And it taught me a lot about negotiation. And it taught me that it's all about creating a win-win situation for everyone.
Excellent. Well, you did pivot out of the law. At some point, you made this bold move, and it is a bold move, I believe, to leave law practice and follow your passion. So tell me about that. What happened that turned you perhaps differently from the law into this new area?
I don't really see it as a very bold move. I see it more as a gradual move that happened in several stages. So one pivot was going from private practice to going in-house, right? And once I was working as a lawyer in-house, I kind of pivoted within that organization to a more business-oriented role. And eventually, I decided to become an entrepreneur. So it happened in stages, and I did continue to work in law adjacent fields, ones that combine technology and law. So I feel like, yeah, the pivot was gradual. It wasn't one dramatic step.
I see. How was it with people looking at you from the outside? Did they see it in that way? Oh, you've naturally changed, from private practice in-house, then in-house, a business role within in-house. How were they accepting or looking at you from the outside?
Yeah, I've never really thought about that because I focus more on my internal validation rather than external validation. I'm not
That
quite
makes a
sure.
lot of sense. No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. It's not about what other
Uh-huh.
people think, is it? It's about what you want to do. So tell us now, what are you doing? What have you done with your law background and now you're doing something else? What are you doing?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So currently, I'm focusing on matching global investors with SMEs in Japan. And, recognizing that there's a big succession problem with small businesses in Japan, I want to make them more visible to global investors. So to that end, I recently launched an app called akamira.ai, which provides, the information that global investors might need.
Gosh, you made an app as well as doing all the rest of it. Matching overseas investors with SMEs in Japan. Why would they
Yes.
be interested in Japan?
Yeah, I think in general, there's a lot of interest among global investors in Japan. And, of course, people can access information of publicly listed companies very easily. But when it comes to SMEs, the information is quite opaque, right? It's very difficult for global investors to find information on a small mom and pop business or even a medium sized business, one that employs 100 people. This really provides a great opportunity to match those parties. On the one hand, the small businesses that want assistance or investment, and on the other hand, the investors who are very curious about Japan and finding out more about these opportunities.
I guess these overseas investors know that I think it's around 95% of businesses in Japan are actually
Hmm.
SME sized.
Yes,
So there's a
exactly.
huge potential for overseas investors. What draws them in? Is it that fact that they are small and they can do a lot with them to grow them? Is it really wanting to be the successor of businesses? From your experience, what are they looking at that's really attractive about these SME Japanese businesses?
Yeah, I think there are many angles. One is as people visit Japan, they become intrigued by, say, arts and crafts of Japan, the old traditions. And unfortunately, some of those businesses are dying down. So people feel strongly about trying to continue them. On the other hand, you've got professional investors, people who are in M&A and private equity practices, who are very interested in acquiring medium-sized businesses in Japan. So I think there are several angles that global investors have.
Right. How did you work out, though, that this is the kind of thing that you would like? And it sounds to me like it's a superpower you've got, being able to think about bringing investors to SMEs in Japan. How did that come to you?
So I think it's the culmination of everything I've done in the past. Before law, I was in investment banking. And after leaving Big Law, I went into in-house of an investment bank. So investment has always been a forte of mine. And at the same time, I've always sort of seen myself as a bridge between Japan and the rest of the world. Even as a child, I was thinking that, because I used to interpret for my father's friends, when they came over to Japan. So it was all of that, plus recognizing that there's a serious social issue in Japan, one about the lack of succession because of the aging population. And I started thinking about all these things, that social issue, as well as the ways in which I can contribute. And that's how I landed with this business.
It's amazing. I really love that you're doing this. And I think one of the reasons I've invited you on today is that I want lawyers to also know there are different pathways utilizing the law. And I think you've
Hmm.
found your purpose, this bridging between Japan and the rest of the world, and having that initial experience when you were younger using your English and your Japanese to translate, help your father. So maybe some lawyers have picked up on this episode because they're thinking, what if I want to do something like Mika and do something completely different? Maybe many lawyers feel quite tied to what they're doing and are a little afraid to step away. So, how do you keep your dreams and options open? And what advice would you give to that lawyer who's listening, who's got a dream but doesn't really know what to do? A little bit hesitant, a bit fearful.
Yeah, I think fear is the key word there, right? So I think it's very important to get rid of fear however you can. Whether it's meditation or affirmations, just tell yourself to shed that fear and go for something that you really want to do. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic overnight change. It could be just pursuing something that you're interested in that also overlaps with your law career, perhaps, and start that way. So that would be my recommendation.
Right. Okay. So if you've done that and you're sort of thinking, okay, well, I've still got a little bit of fear here, but maybe I'll try it. What else do they need after that? I'm sort of thinking in my own situation, it was having a little bit of money saved, right? So you've got that there, you've got some friends who are supporting you, encouraging you. What else would you add to that?
Yeah. So you mentioned some important things, having a little bit of savings always helps, it's yoyu, right?
Yes,
Having
you're
a bit
you.
of, yeah, so something to fall back on. And beyond that, perhaps it's taking the first steps in researching what you want to do. So, for example, in my case, I identified a problem and started looking more and more into it. What can be done about it? What kind of infrastructure can I set up to help people? So, yeah, I think I would start there, just looking into things, and gradually, you build up the confidence, and hopefully, naturally, the fear goes away.
So how has law and your legal mindset helped you in this way? A little bit more on that. Maybe your legal training. How's that continued to influence you now? Do you still draw on law, or do you not notice that you're really doing it anymore? It's just part of your DNA now.
I think yes and no. I think it's very much part of my DNA. Law is something that is ingrained in me and it's not going to disappear. And sometimes I am very aware of the fact that I'm drawing on my legal background. So, for example, as I set up a business, I think about the legal and compliance issues that I have to take care of. It really pops up in everyday life, like if I'm going through a personal real estate transaction, I think about the legal issues. So my legal background is very much a part of me. And it's also something I consciously draw upon all the time.
I want to pick up on what you said before about finding a problem and wanting to solve it. And so for you, that was the succession problem in Japan.
Yes, correct.
So where did that finding that problem come from? So that you find a problem, but there's something that brought you to that. You probably
Hmm.
weren't standing on the street one day at a mom and pop shop and say, I wonder what's going to happen to this shop after mum and dad have disappeared. Or was it something like that? What got you to that step before understanding what your passion was?
So it's a combination of things in my case. I'm a news junkie, so I look at the news all the time. I always had a general awareness of this succession problem in Japan. It's
Mm,
obvious that there's an aging population. Having kind of witnessed the 80s in Japan, I saw how people went into all kinds of businesses during that period, right? The bubble years. But now those people are in their 80s, 90s, and I became very aware because of, a few situations involving family friends, for example. you
right.
know yeah,
Yeah.
dad and mom are getting on in age, or maybe they've passed away, and it's time for the children to inherit the business, but they're simply not interested in those businesses, or other such situations. So it's both being aware of the news in general and witnessing individual cases where this is very much the case.
Right. And then you would have added on your research about it to verify, wow, there is a problem. And what can I do
Hmm.
between this area that I'm really good at with finding investors and bringing them to match up? I think that's for somebody probably out there may think, how on earth could you have done that? But somehow you matched it. Was there a point where you
Hmm.
thought, this is going to work? I found an investor and they are investing in an SME. Is there some point where that was your real sign to you that this was going to work?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of testing the waters on LinkedIn, and
Oh,
that's
right.
been that's been a marvelous network.
Maybe that's how I
Eh,
found you on one of those
yes.
testing situations. I was very intrigued. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And as I talked about this succession issue, I found that many people were intrigued by it. And
Mm.
actually, they started expressing interest in acquiring businesses in Japan. So that's when I realized this could be a very viable business model.
Amazing. What kind of businesses are they buying into? Is it the mum and pop shops, right? Sorry, it's hard to say that. Mom and
Yeah.
pop.
Yeah.
Those smaller shops, or is it something else that is the most popular thing? When they said they had interest, what was that?
Yeah, people are interested in a wide range of things. Just to give some examples, it could be the mom and pop shop, which is involved in traditional arts and crafts, or it could be, say, a larger financial institution looking at a particular industry in Japan, right? And acquiring a number of those businesses as a roll up
Hmm.
to achieve economies of scale in Japan.
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's a wide range.
Amazing. So tell me about this app. Can anyone design an app or is it quite complicated? And tell me what it does. Okay, I know you're matching
Yeah,
people, but tell me about your app. It sounds incredible.
sure. Thank you. So thanks to AI, things get easier and easier, right? And what I discovered is that you can design an app or a website simply by vibe coding. So I decided to jump on that bandwagon and learn whatever I can about vibe coding.
What is that? What is vibe coding?
Vibe coding is basically coding for non-coders.
Oh, good.
So, yes. So, I, for example, don't know anything about software engineering. I never learned a language in coding, right? But I've discovered that by talking to an AI agent, you can pretty much create an app or a website or whatever you want.
Really?
So, yes, that's right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I just decided to take the plunge and take a stab at creating something.
Wow. So do you load up the different companies that are available? Obviously, not their names, but this kind of business doing this sort of thing is looking for investment. Or is it coming from the other side? The investors go in, or probably two portals?
That's a great question. Eventually, there are going to be two portals, but at the moment, what I've launched is a global investor-friendly site where they can browse some sample companies to get an idea of the types of industries and, geographic locations I can provide. And once they look at that, they might contact me and let me know exactly what they're looking for, X industry and Y area. And based on that request, I would create a private workspace for them,
Mm,
loaded with information that they're looking for.
amazing. Amazing. Can anyone, do you think any lawyer could do this?
A person who is not afraid of technology would
Mm,
be able to do it. Yeah. And in terms of skills, I do believe that anybody can do it. It's just a matter of getting rid of any preset ideas that you can't do it, if
right.
you know what I mean.
I
Mhm.
do. Excellent. Well, how would you now then define your success for yourself today, say, compared to when you were in private practice or your first that in-house legal job that you were doing? What's the difference between Mika then and now?
Sure. Yeah. So today I would define success as having freedom, having the flexibility to do what I want when I want. Whereas early in my career, I probably associated success with kind of being on the conveyor belt, and going up the
Mm,
ladder sort of thing.
I see. It's totally different
Hmm.
then.
Absolutely.
Oh, and so no real career is built alone. I think mentorship or other factors happen and help us to shape. Have you had mentorship along the way, both giving and receiving, to help shape your journey now into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I think mentorship is really important, but unfortunately, I haven't had any formal mentorship, either receiving or giving. But what I do have is people who give me a lot of inspiration. So I love talking with people who have done different things and have different ideas. It's just very inspiring for me to speak to them. And I'm hoping that I can give back in the same way, by talking through things that people hadn't thought about before.
Do people also come to you though to ask you how they do things like I'm asking you about setting up an app and matching people? Have you had people approach you? I think the LinkedIn is an obvious example, but that's a kind of interest in the business. But for mentoring, how do I do it? Can you help me to get an understanding or an appreciation for how to do these things? Have people come to you?
Yes, that happens on an informal basis a lot. Someone might reach out and say, I'm interested in going to X, you seem to have experience in that. How did you do it? And I'm always happy to answer questions like that.
I see. So, if you had to choose, what's a mindset or a piece of advice that you've had to unlearn in order to become an entrepreneur like yourself now? So, before and after, I suppose, but an unlearning is almost as important as, say, a learning is.
Yeah. So definitely we've talked about fear before,
Yes,
but I think the number one thing to unlearn is fear of trying something new. If you feel strongly about something, but you have this inner voice questioning it, like, oh, but how could you do that? That's terrifying. Just try to quiet down that voice. Try to unlearn that habit of fearing something and go for it.
and I talked a little bit before, I mentioned the word superpower, but is there a superpower you think you had when you were a lawyer and maybe how that's helping you now? Or what do you think now is your superpower?
So I think even at an early stage, I had this superpower, the ability of cutting through BS, right?
Whoa.
Um, just being a critical thinker and calling BS if you see it.
Have you got an
And I,
example of that? That's amazing. Yeah.
well, I don't want to get too controversial, but again, on LinkedIn, which is generally a very pleasant and safe place to be, I do see a lot of, shall we say, exaggerations about
Mm,
Japan,
mm.
trying to make Japan sound like a very different fairy tale place. I'm always tempted to say, no, it's not really that different. We do business like everybody else does. I do like to cut through that noise
I
and
see.
present a more accurate picture of Japan. And that's what I'm hoping to do with my Akamira.ai. I want to present Japanese businesses as they are without all the memes and tropes and things.
Wow, I love the name of the app. If people are thinking, I know this great SME that Mika might be really interested in, can they get in touch to do something like that, introduce you? I mean, you don't have obligation to do that, but maybe someone's thinking, I know someone who'd be great for you.
Oh, absolutely. It would be delightful to be contacted with information like that.
I want to ask a couple of other questions just to tidy up today, but for fun though, if you weren't investing in doing what you're doing now, educating, consulting, or maybe you've got another dream that you're trying to think about as a passion project, what would you love to try?
hmm Well, I feel like I'm living my dream right now, pursuing what I'm pursuing.
Yay!
But besides that, I'm getting very intrigued by how to stay healthy and how to manage stress. So, on the side, I would love to explore things like Eastern medicine, study how
Mm.
energy works in the body so that I can help people stay healthy and live a long, fulfilling life.
Wow, that's really amazing. That would be fun. What's something about you that people might be surprised to learn? I think we're already getting a vibe that you're very curious and adventurous, but is there something else that people might think, I never knew Mika was doing that?
Well, I've sort of given it away in the beginning, but I love the stimulation of big cities, and Tokyo is my favorite place in the world. But I am now living in Karuizawa, surrounded by trees in a quiet environment. So that might surprise people. I'm a
Oh,
city girl at heart, but I
mm,
love, living in nature.
excellent. And I'm going to ask you a little crazy question.
Sure.
If you
Go.
would think about your career as a metaphor, right? It might be a variety of food or a substance, a tree, for example. How would you describe your career so far as like a metaphor?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, it might be sort of being a copycat of Tom Hanks, but I think that my life is like a box of chocolates, right?
Great. Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You bite in and you might be surprised by what's inside. And I've been someone who has been very curious about different things, as you could probably tell from this conversation. And I'm not afraid to take a bite into something new,
exactly. So
and to
actually,
see where that goes.
when you've got a literal box of chocolates in front of you, do you look at the little, anai, the description that comes with it to see which is which, or do you just take one and find out what it is?
I think I have a tendency to take one and just bite into it and see what it
So,
is.
this is a perfect
hmm
metaphor for you. I'm so glad I asked you this question. That's fantastic. Well, Mika, if we're finished for today, we have finished. Thank you so much for our chat today. I've really enjoyed having you on Lawyer on Air. I'm so glad I found you and
Oh,
found out
thank
what you're
you.
doing with this former lawyer, bringing your energy and your expertise and your inspiration and curiosity to what you're doing now. And I hope you've been an inspiration for anyone who's listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed today too.
Oh, absolutely. It was so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much, Catherine. I really enjoyed this opportunity.
Well, since you've talked about LinkedIn a lot, is that the best place then for anyone who's listening to reach out to you if they'd like to talk a bit more, explore, ask for support, connect with you?
Yes, that's an excellent place for people to find me.
Fantastic. We'll put your LinkedIn details in the show notes so listeners can find you. And also to my listeners, if you found this episode has inspired you, and I think it should have, it's given you something to think about, please let us know. Please write a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a voice or text review on our website. Your feedback really does help more listeners to find this show and discover answers to questions they always wanted to know about a different kind of career in Japan, like today's guest episode. That's all for today. I'll see you back here on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.